So another technique, so if you don't have a 3-year-old yet, this will happen. They figure out that the more they can stall, the more they can ask for, and find something that will stall the process of bedtime. Like inevitably, they're genius at it. They're like masters of negotiation. Yeah. My daughter said, my daughter said the other night, she knew that she said she needed a certain cup, and I swear she knew it was in the dishwasher and it was dirty. She knows the thing that's like the 10th thing on her list that she's asked for. Or questions like my son will say like, "Mama," and then I remember one time when he was 3, I came back in the room and if you could see, he had no idea what he was going to say. He just was calling me in, and I went in and he went like, like 30 seconds, and then he just goes, "Where do they keep the magazines?" So like they're really genius, and we, as with all of our techniques, we really want to make them feel like we hear them and we're there and we're responding. We're not being mean. We don't want to be like frustrated with them, and we don't want to give them the message that like, "Go to sleep, I'm mad at you, I don't like this." So it really helps to have a way of talking about this whole thing with them, because they understand what's going on, and so do you. So having a language to talk about it is super important. And so what we love is to have what we call the last call for stuff. And what it is the time before bed when you are allowed to ask for your socks to be put on or taken off, or my kids have to blow their noses, even though they don't have to blow their noses, but they like the ritual of me coming in and blowing their noses. And then what are the other things that your kids ask for or say? It's usually like a sippy cup, another sip of water, another stuffed animal, but it has to be the stuffed animal but then I can't find that stuffed animal, and then we need to have a mommy bunny for the baby bunny. There's always something else, so they get to have their last call for stuff, and they call it that. And then you say, "Does anyone have any other? This is your last call. Does anybody have another thing that they need?" And then you walk out of the room, and you can combine this with the reverse sleep wave, which maybe you can describe. But so you walk out of the room, and then if your kids ask for anything else, you are saying, I really hear you. We already had our last call for stuff, and now you're in charge of your own body and your own bed. So that means they're in charge of getting comfortable, they're in charge of pulling up their covers, they're in charge of getting their sippy cup. And you can practice these things during the day, because they sometimes just a blanket falling off will be the thing that wakes up your 3-year-old. And so if you get them in bed and you practice pulling up those covers and you talk about, remember, after our last call, when the lights go out, you're in charge of your own body and your own space. And so let's see what would happen if you woke up in your bed and your covers were off. Let's practice. Where's your sippy cup? Let's take a little sip. You just troubleshoot it with them. And then they know after last call, and they feel like you've responded to them and you've heard them, but you've also provided a containing way for them for you to pass the baton to them. Like now the soothing part is on you, and I know you can do it.
Using humor for last stuff, they know that it's kind of funny. It's like, okay, one more thing, but then they also know that you're holding that limit for them, and you're not. I mean, I've had a lot of kids who start pushing bedtime, and what happens is, just like with any other part of sort of limit setting, if the limit's not clear and they push it, like, you think you're being nice by reading one more book or giving them one more pair of socks or whatever it is, but what happens is they get more anxious, they get more overtired, and they have a harder time falling asleep. They don't feel safe, they don't feel contained. So it's that paradox of good parenting, where you hold the limit with kindness and with lots of explanation during the day, where you talk about what it's going to look like, but holding it really helps them to go to sleep, helps them to then shift over. So stretching it out and not having tools to contain all of that makes it much, much harder for them.
We have a 4-year-old, and now he's actually, once we go out, he starts saying, I need to go potty now, and I have to run out to go to the bathroom. So
I include potty in last call for stuff, because that's the one they know will get us. That's the biggest chink in our armor. So no, potty is
last call.
Last call for potty, no more. That's it.
I would have them for sure go to the potty right before they get in bed.
Okay.
So you don't have to worry. I always say, did everybody do their last pee?
Okay.
Last pee. Everybody has to do their last pee.
Okay.
It's not a choice.
Yeah.
You have to
Let me
sit
get
down
this
and see it. And then you won't feel worried.
Hysterically screaming, hyperventilating after you do all that. What do you do?
Well, this is where we get into some of our more complicated techniques, but no, we'll describe them as best we can. Yeah. Let me just see what Marsha wanted to ask.
Because I know in your book, the sippy cup thing was like a big, like this could be part of your area when you're asleep or whatever. And my thing is like my oldest, she's still in a pull-up like at night, and like the goal eventually is to get her new underwear at night. And so I've heard that like you shouldn't let them drink anything past 7 or
Just a teeny tiny bit of water.
So-
Tiny, yeah.
And not like a full cup.
Just
Is that
a lot
what you
of
mean? Like it's too much.
Yeah, I'm
fluid,
like
yeah.
I'm trying to eventually get them not to drink anything at a certain point.
Yeah, but you know that moment in the middle of the night where you just want to sip. It's just you just let them know it's just a sip, and you don't increase it.
just to make sure they're drinking milk, like at dinner, that they're hydrated during the day, and then have a big glass of milk at dinner or whatever, and then the sips.
Okay, so it's just kind of like
Yeah.
so you don't
It's more
bother
of a
me.
ritual.
Yeah, and just because we know how it feels, like you wake up at 3 in the morning, and I don't know, to me that one sip of water, if I don't have it, I can't go back to sleep. I'm sure that's just an association. So let's describe, this is written in great depth in chapter 4, and it really is better explained in greater depth, but we want to just give you sort of the bare bones of what to do if they're crying, whether it's a 5-month-old, 6-month-old baby, or an older child. And you are holding that limit of we didn't add the sleep associations for older children are things like lying down with them. Anybody doing that? Lying down with them until they fall asleep?
Well, yeah, not like in the room, yeah, but not like right next to them.
In the room, yeah, in the room, either in their bed or on another bed or sleeping surface.
Actually, I have a friend, well, I mean, she's a member of Business too, she actually asked that question. She has to be in the room for both her kids to fall asleep.
Right,
Like
so
10
that's their
minutes.
association.
Yeah.
She doesn't have to be,
Well,
but they
that's-
think she has to be.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
But she's done it for like 3 years, so it's kind of like, how do you break that?
Right, and so what are some other for like kids who are a little bit older in their toddler beds? Are kids who come into your bed in the night? How many have that?
Not yet. They don't actually like our
Nobody
bed.
has that? Toddling in, climbing into your bed in the middle of the night?
I wish they would.
It makes it easier, right?
So
That would be so easy.
So the technique that we describe, whether it's for a little baby, you put them down awake. We don't recommend using this until they're about 5 months old, but from that point on, it's a version of this. And the main goal of it is to let them know that you're close by if they're upset, if they're crying, but also that you're not going to resort to any of these things. You're gonna make sure that the falling asleep part is now their role. So we have a technique called the sleep wave, where once you've got your routine done and you say goodnight to them, you're going to say a little script. It's just like 3 little sentences, like, night night, we love you, it's time for sleep, whatever 3 little sentences you might say. Leave the room. And now the goal is to make sure that if they are in distress, if they are crying, that you're gonna make sure they know you're there. You don't want them to ever wonder where you are. So if they're crying, you go in every 5 minutes, walk into their room, say the script, and leave. We'll talk about to an older child who's jumping out of the bed and all this. This is more for babies in a crib. And what happens is you just keep doing it until they fall asleep. And initially they get very mad. They're in sort of a protest stage because you're changing a pattern. But what you're keeping them from doing by going in every 5 minutes, we call it the sleep wave because we don't change the time from 5 minutes to a longer time. We keep it very, very regular, so it feels very, when you go to the ocean, when the waves come in, you always know the next wave is coming, you know the timing of it, it's very predictable, it's almost hypnotic. Once the baby knows that you're coming in every 5 minutes and you're saying your script, very soon they feel very safe, they know you're there. They're mad that you're not doing any of those other things anymore, but they never even go into wondering where you are, much less more worrisome feelings like fear and panic. And we don't want any of this. And this is why we devised this method, because there are doctors out there that will still say, shut the door and don't go in. They just have to figure it out. We absolutely don't believe in that, but we do believe that it's okay for them to be mad. It's absolutely okay for them to protest something new. And if you stay consistent with it, they shift over to doing it themselves very quickly. The version of the sleepaway for an older child can involve, depends on the, like, it usually takes us time to like sit down, figure out what you are doing, what they're doing. Are they getting out of their beds? Some little kids, now I'm talking about toddler beds, some kids will just sit in their beds and call out or cry. Some get up, some come all the way out of their room. So there's all these different configurations, or some parents are lying down with them. So the technique would fit whatever you're doing. If the parent's lying down in the room with them, we have this thing called the parent wean, where we wean the parent out of the room gradually, like, I don't know, 6 to 12 inches a night until they're out of the room, and that's super effective. It's super effective, and it's not as abrupt as some of our other methods. So if you're lying down with them, just get a sleeping bag or something that you can like shift out of the room. The other techniques, I'm sure you've heard some versions of these. The goal is to get them back into their bed, often for a verbal child without even speaking. If they get out of their bed, to walk them back to their bed. If they're crying, you can go in every 5 minutes, walk them back to their bed. The goal with the child who gets out of their bed is to not let them get too far, like into the light, like into a living room or all the way into your room. So there's different versions, depending on your comfort level, depending on the configuration. Some people will use like a baby gate, or some people actually close the door anyway. They're not used to having the door open. But my bias is usually to keep them from leaving their room. Once they've left their room, now they're really waking up. So even if it means for a while you have to be lying in the hallway and just walk them back to their bed every single time, sometimes wordlessly if they're trying to engage you in conversation. The main thing is sticking to it and letting them know that you're not mad, that you're happy to do it as many times as you need to do to lay down this new pattern. The biggest mistake that happens during any kind of application of one of these techniques is giving up and resorting, just saying, I can't do this anymore. It's hard and you'll be tired, but it's like money in the bank, because once they know that you're there and that you are responding to them, but that the role of falling asleep independently is on them, they not only do it, but they feel confident. They go into their beds happily, and they go into their beds feeling capable, and it's a wonderful gift to give to your child. So the techniques they all have the same goal, but it takes a little time sometimes to sort of put the pieces of the puzzle together for that particular family. The book has chapters for different ages, and the techniques are geared for the ages.
Only does not work for me, because I've done that, like walk them back and be in the hallway, and I can do that until like 2 a.m. in the morning, until I tell them I'm really mad. Even if I'm not mad, I have to tell them I'm really, really mad, and sometimes yell at them, and then they go to sleep in like 3 seconds, and they don't want to yell at them, and I don't want to tell them I'm really mad at you, or I'm mad that you're not, I'm not mad at you, but I'm mad that you're not sleeping, or not, doing what I tell you to do. But it doesn't work if I just walk them back. They're like, oh great, and then they start bouncing the beds and cleaning out all the cabinets and whatever. So smearing the cream on the wall, and whatever they. Just keeps going and going until I like put my foot down and say, you can't do this anymore. So I don't want to do that, but what's your advice?
Some kids have more stick-to-itiveness than others, and they'll hang in there with trying to get you. It's almost like their goal is to get you to that point, because that kind of feeds their behavior. So the goal is, even if it takes till 4 in the morning, and even if you have to do that for 3 weeks in a row, they have to believe that you're not going to change your behavior. Take all the toys and creams and everything out of their room, and just don't give them anything to play with in there, and just keep doing it and don't give up. That's what it takes, is letting them know that there is a limit and that you're holding it. And you're going to have to do this about all kinds of things. And it's really hard, and it's really easy to get mad. We get so we get so frustrated and so mad, but the goal here is to let them know that, I mean, we have to put ourselves in their shoes at that moment and say, you know, they're not particularly doing this to make you mad, they're doing it because they're testing you. And the trick is they're good little scientists, and your role is to give them data that is 100% consistent. And if you can do that, they will eventually come to trust
So
that that's.
not talk to them, just like walk them back, put them back in bed, and walk out the room and do 3 sentences and 3 words.
At that age, I wouldn't say a word. I wouldn't say a word. And I would rehearse it with them. And the book lays all this out. Rehearse it during the day, show them what it's going to be like, take anything out of the room. I've been in families' homes where I've said, okay, this goes out, and they've had to like take half the stuff out of the room because they're up in there messing with all the stuff. Just take it out. I know it's a bummer, but the end result is so much better than what you're having to deal with now. And it's doable. It just takes a lot of strength.
What, for example, would you look at her routines? Would you say like how she's setting the stage?
I would look at everything.
Right.
I'd look
that
at
would
the
be initial
timing,
thing.
I'd look at the environment, I'd look at the routine, I'd look at everything. Sometimes I even look at like when they have their meals. So
Right.
that's what I like to do in a sleep consult. Heather and I both do them. It's just
Yeah.
putting it all together. It's like, to me, it's like it all comes together. I'm like, oh, this is what it, I mean, usually
Yeah.
we tweak something, and
It's the slightest little thing.
sometimes putting them to bed 30 minutes earlier is the key. You know, we often think keeping them up later will make them fall asleep
Miss
more
the
easily.
window.
I was just gonna say, the tricky thing is though with multiples and like, you know, like even if they are twins, but just having a lot, like more than one child is that,
Like having 3.
yes, like having 3. Like for, you know, I was doing what you guys recommend in the book for my daughter and it was working great at night but like, you know, the nap, it's, you know, it's tighter and you don't want it to drag out as long and for my son, like he'll go down easily fine, he's in his own room, and then when my daughter was like still pulling the BS and, you know, I would have to, she would be screaming and I'd be like majorly anxiety ridden about my son not getting his nap and then him getting overtired and not going down. And so, you know, I was having to resort to what this lady was saying, just I have to threaten her. she hates it when I put the door monkey on her door. And I'm like, you want me to get the door monkey? Like, it's like I'm threatening her with the door monkey. Like, you're going to be locked in here now, you know? And she's like, I don't want the door monkey. And then, like, she'll, you know, it's like, okay, fine, you know? And that was, like, effective. But I knew it was, like, wrong, but it was, like, it worked. Yeah, and so I'm
trying
like,
to
what
get
do
her
I
to
do?
get into bed or get her pajamas on or every
Just
step?
down for the nap.
Oh,
Because I don't
nap.
care if, like, at night, if she's going crazy and has to do her thing for, like, 15, 20 minutes, he'll deal. But, like, for a nap, it's like they're only asleep for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And if he misses that window of optimal sleep, then his nap will be shot. And then he'll be, you know, so I'm, like, worried. And then, like, at night well, let's just talk about that part first. Like, you know, not having to feel like I need to get to the point where I have to threaten her.
It's almost like she's kind of like, oh, what if mom's going to do this? You're making it more fun for her in a way. You're kind of feeding her.
Because like at
attention.
first, like I do it, you know, I wouldn't even say anything. I just walk her back, not be mad. But I guess she could probably see my anxiety, you know? I mean, like my body language is like, oh, you gotta stop this. He's trying to sleep.
She's 3.
She's 2.
She's 2,
Yeah.
but she's the one who's come out of the crib, right?
Right.
So she can come out. But the other one's in a crib.
He's in a crib, in his own room,
I would use some sound screens and maybe even move, you know, like sound screens meaning like noise machines that are
Yeah,
just
they
meant
both
to
have
be
them.
sound screen.
They
And
both
then I would
have
just
them.
for a while not worry about him and be consistent with her because it's the consistency. He'll be fine. He'll go back to sleeping again even if he's awakened a few times. But she needs to know that you're consistent and you're not changing it up and getting. I mean, when we get riled,
Now that we're talking
it's
about it, it's
very
like, yeah, I'm probably
activating
not
to them.
saying it, but like she sees it, like, oh, this lady's like
Yeah.
getting pissed off.
I would sit by the door, like sit outside
Yeah.
the door and
Yeah.
just know, like expect her to come out. Just like
Yeah.
put her in bed knowing she's about to come out and stay there. And know that you're going to put her back in bed 50 times the first day.
No, yeah. And just be very, just talk to yourself. Just read and just say, you're just like doing the same thing over and over. Just don't even think about how much time has gone by. Maybe she'll miss her nap. Don't worry about it. The most important thing is that you stay consistent.
So it's 9 o'clock don't know if we're gonna take some questions or if you guys, up to you.
Well, does anybody have any more questions? There are always more silly questions. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to follow up on what you're talking about here. Is this a technique you would use? Our girls wake up in the middle of the night regularly. Like, we don't have too much of a problem getting them to sleep, but then after 2 hours or 3 hours, they get up, and another 2 hours later, you know.
Yeah,
So
we would use whatever technique you use would be for all sleep, for bedtime, for middle of the night, and for naps.
But for you guys, I think you said one of you is in the room when they fall asleep. Oh, no?
No, usually not.
Well, you're sitting in a chair, and I wait until they fall asleep. Yeah, I do. But
you
I
are
can do
in
that.
the room.
I can do that gradual 6-inch, 12-inch.
Yeah, so if you're in the room when they fall asleep, then
That's
that
the first thing.
then
I don't think she cares if it's her. I think I do it just to make sure everything's okay. You know?
So
I think she's cool.
I would start by not being in the room when they first fall asleep.
Yeah.
And then if they still wake, you might be surprised that they don't wake up as much if they don't fall asleep with you in the room.
With me, without me in the room, that's a possibility. And then Gabriella often, I'll just go away and do something, I'll come back and she'll be asleep. So, but she's the one we put her asleep in the other room and then move her to her bed because they can't put them both to sleep at the same time in their room. But right now we can't because, well, they can't, I don't know. I guess I could try again, I just haven't tried it before because I don't want to.
So yeah,
It's like, I can get them to sleep in 10 minutes.
even with siblings, we'll sometimes just move one of the kids somewhere else while we're working on one kid, and then work on the other one, move them together. But you don't have to worry about it being perfect. You know, as long as they're falling asleep independently most of the time, they're gonna, you know, they'll. Part of being together will help each other, and part of being together will activate each other.
Well, I was just curious. I mean, the hospital as well as our physician told us about 5S's and, you know, the swinging, stretching, and all that. And it looks like those are all unhelpful. So you're saying
Only from 5 months on.
Okay.
Yeah, no. Remember,
kind
during
of
those early months, they
gradually
need your help. It's just a matter of being curious about trying to put them down awake, maybe even once a day, not rushing to every little peep. It doesn't mean not to soothe them at all. That early attachment is important. So we're talking about a lot of different age ranges in here, but we have a whole chapter for 0 to 4 months. It's really all about curious, but we don't want you to leave them to cry or anything like that at that age.
You had a question? I just wanted to ask about nightmares, and my son's sort of having them right now, and I'll go in. They've always been super sleepers, and I just don't want to develop a bad habit around keeping habits at nightmare and nightmare.
I don't know if everyone can hear. She's asking about nightmares and night terrors.
They're 3.
They're 3, and it's one of them waking up with nightmares. What time of night is it?
Last night it was at 3.
Yeah, that's a classic nightmare
I see
time.
bad things in my eyes.
He said I can see bad things in my eyes. Yeah, I know. It's so yeah. They're so real to them having those fear. I mean,
Real to us.
it's terrible to have a nightmare. It genuinely feels awful. And that 2 or 3 in the morning is the classic time for nightmares to happen. That's when the most REM sleep is occurring. So usually when they're waking up at that time, it's a nightmare, and earlier in the night, it's a night terror. They're very different things, but this is definitely a nightmare. So things that you can do. The goal is to give him tools. I mean, you can't make them go away. So you always want to just, you soothe them, you do what you need to do to help them feel better. It's key, right? Key. And so that just means, in the immediate sense, just going to him and doing whatever you need to do to calm him down. It could be giving him a hug or patting him, and just staying with him until he's calm. And you can tell when he's calm by, he's breathing normally and he knows where he is. Like you say, we're in your room, all your things are here that were here when you went to sleep. You have your stuffed animals and your books, and you kind of just orient into his room and make him aware of where he is, and just, that feeling of being in between awake and asleep, like just make sure that he knows where he is and he feels confident and you really know he's awake and that he's not scared anymore. And then practicing techniques for feeling better. Like my son has there's a lot of ways that you kind of have to kind of like troubleshoot and figure out what makes sense. But for example, I tell my son, when he was that age and he started having nightmares, I would tell him that if he flipped his pillow over, it would change the channel on his dream. I think it felt like too much for him, so we turned it into, if you change your body position and if you flip your body over, it will change the channel on the dream. And so he does that, and he has in the book I described his other technique. He's come up with his own ways of doing a version of that. So talking about those during the day is really important, so he has ways to feel comfortable in the middle of the night. You can also like do something like take the stuffed animal and say, it seems like you need some extra help. I'm going to give Teddy Bear 10 extra kisses, and then you keep him with you, and you're going to have those kisses with you. So Teddy, like talk to Teddy Bear. Be like, Teddy Bear, you have to keep these in there only for, that. And if he needs them while he's asleep, you have, keep him really safe and keep them for him if he needs them. Something like that makes him feel like once you leave the room, he has something to do. He has he can get those kisses from the teddy bear or flip his body over. And then, not resorting to lying down until they fall asleep or that's the easiest thing to do, right? Is just to bring them into your bed or lie down with them.
I haven't yet, but I can see myself going there.
Yeah, so the key is to be able to give them the techniques and make sure they're comfortable and then leave again.
It's empowering too. Yeah, he feels like, I had this bad dream. Mommy came in, soothed me, got me oriented, and I have my things that I do.
It's great.
And then Mommy goes back, and he knows you're there. He knows you're there. Sorry. That's okay. Go ahead, and then I'll get his.
Is 15 or 16 months too early for night carers? Because they seem to be every time I'm doing that. It's like around 9:30 or so.
Night terrors just mean that you're caught in between two stages of sleep. It's like you're in a deep sleep and awake at the same time. It's really a weird phenomenon of
That's pretty screwy.
They're caught in between being awake and asleep. Like they're in a deep sleep and awake at the same time. It's a really bizarre, just kind of physiological thing. It doesn't necessarily mean they're even afraid.
Yeah.
It's just like a glitch in the sleep cycle, so it can happen at any age.
And what's the best thing to do?
Just to stay with them until they calm back down and they don't hurt, just to stay there so they don't hurt themselves. And then usually they just, if it's really a night terror, usually they just pass right back out once they come out of the...
So if you've never experienced, but night terrors are distinguished by they don't wake up and they don't respond to you. It's very terrifying
really scary
for a parent.
Yeah.
There's not much you can do, like Heather said, other than keep them safe. But they don't remember it the next day. So those are the three major distinguishing. They're so weird. But you have a question?
Yeah, I was wondering if you could give some advice on how to go from going all the way through the night with having a bottle in the middle to weaning out the bottle.
At what age?
8 months, but they're 2 months early, so they're 6 months adjusted.
And how many ounces in the bottle?
One for one of the girls.
1
so
ounce?
Just 1 ounce.
Oh.
So should we try to keep it there,
At what
phase
time
it
of
out?
the night?
It's like 3 a.m.
Okay. Because usually when there are feeds at night at an appropriate age, if the parent wants to, we have a guidelines for how to wean feeds. It's very, very gradual.
Yeah.
But if it's only 1 ounce.
We've been weaning her down,
Oh,
so
yeah.
that's where she's at.
I mean,
But if she wakes up and still wants it, I mean, if we kind of trained her to, she's always going to get that, or at some point do you? Yeah, she's really only 6 months adjusted, so we don't want to deny
She's
it.
not really getting much from that 1 ounce. She's basically just that's just a little habit that's the very tail end of.
Yeah.
So that would be something that you would use the sleep wave for to respond to her.
and so once you finish weaning the feed, you have to have something to do instead if she calls to you and cries.
Okay.
And that's
But-
when the sleep wave would come in.
And then what's the point at which you're not doing that at all in the night? And then
Not
sleep
doing what?
through the night? Giving an ounce.
You wouldn't give the ounce at all. Like at this point,
That's what you're saying.
there's not really much that's like her hunger is not being satiated. Yeah. So
You
you're
could go to
basically
half an ounce if you want it for 2 nights, and then 0.
But she's probably gonna wake and wonder where the
So
bottle
then the
is.
sleep-
so then
they
you
just
use the
sleep wave.
Yeah.
Is that too early to do that? I mean, I know she is little.
Don't talk to me about it.
I did it.
Again, looking at the big picture, but, and that sort of speaks back to that idea that we underestimate how quickly babies develop and how quickly they become like us, which is if we kind of hunker down and hibernate and shut down a little at night. You know, we don't drink during the night, other than that one little sip of water. But yeah, so she's showing you that she really doesn't need it. It's more of a habit than anything else.
We should probably, wrap it up.
Thank you so much.
The book is available back there.
Yeah, the book is called The Happy Sleeper, and all of our handles, like Facebook and our website, are all called The Happy Sleeper. So it's really easy to find. It's on Amazon,
And you do private consultations.
and we do private consultations. Yeah. Yeah, you guys, it's nice to meet local moms and dads. It's fun to get the
Thank you
questions
so
off.
much. Yeah, this is super helpful.
Yeah. I hope so. It's really nice to see everybody. Thanks for coming out. Thank you.